So I'm a father of one. I gotta find a babysitter. I found care.com and I was blown away. Through the platform, I was able to find local and experienced candidates along with their reviews and rates, which were way more affordable than I anticipated. Care.com really put me at ease knowing that they were all required to go through a background check. If you're like me and you need to find someone reliable for your childcare necessities, check out care.com. Find the ideal sitters for your childcare needs.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, GoPowercat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, from the GPC studios, here's your host, GoPowercat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the Powercat Postgame Review Podcast, sponsored by Caddy Shack Golf. Kansas State loses 20-10 on Saturday at Bill Snyder Family Stadium against a very talented Baylor team. They were as good as I thought they would be coming in, but I also thought Kansas State was gravely bad. Is that a way to put it? They played poorly in areas of the game where they cannot play poorly and expect to win many games at all, let alone against the 11th ranked team in the playoff rankings. Kudos to Baylor. Baylor now is 9-2 and 6-2. Kansas State drops to 7-4 and 4-4 going into Saturday's regular season ending game at Texas on Friday in Austin. And in one moment, we will be bringing in our football analyst, former Kansas State offensive lineman on the 97 and 98 teams, Mr. Brien Hanley from down in Texas, as he watched from down there, and will give us his honest opinions on what happened on the field on Saturday. And we're going to look ahead in this podcast a little bit, not just to Texas, but overall to kind of take a temperature check of the entire program as the season nears its end, because I know a lot of fans are upset about that loss. Well, we are sponsored by Caddy Shack Golf. Caddy Shack Golfwear. That's Caddy with 2 T's. Visit caddyshackgolf.com for all of your officially licensed golfing, Willie apparel, accessories, and more. Use code GPC for free shipping on your next order. And now we bring in Mr. Brien Hanley, our football analyst. Brien, it just wasn't a good day for K-State. When you're playing a team such as Baylor, and I think we expressed this in the pregame podcast, that deploys more talent across the field than you have to be really good. And early mistakes, the muffed punt was just enormous in this game when you consider that it was 20-10, and we can break down all of that in the process. But boy, when you get your first chance to have the ball as an offense and you give it right back to an offense you just stopped, that takes the wind out of your sails.
Absolutely. I mean, the defense had just stopped them. You know, playing well. I mean, Baylor basically came out and said, you know what, we're going to run it. I mean, it was 3rd and 6, and they tried to run it for a first down. We stuffed them, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a good day. And then the muff punt, and then they score. I'm like, oh, well, this isn't good. No. Just wasn't good. Just takes the wind right out of your sails. Just completely deflates you.
You never want to be playing from behind in a game. You're always at an advantage when you're up on the scoreboard. It opens up more possibilities for you on both sides of the ball. But to do it against a superior team, and yes, I know people don't want to hear that Baylor's better, but Baylor's better right now. They just have more talent. They're accessing all of that Dallas Metroplex talent to their advantage, and I think they've got a great head coach. I think he's a different cat, but I think he's the right guy, and hopefully someone hires him. But when you fall behind a better team, you're in big trouble. So K-State were, not even 5 minutes into the game, and K-State's in big trouble. And I would say it almost multiplied because the defense did its job. They got the stand. It got everyone's hopes up. Hey, the defense came to play, and they did. And then, boom, you end up giving up 7 points anyhow. I think that just derailed everything they wanted to do on both sides of the ball.
Yep, absolutely. Just completely took them out of what they were wanting to do. And then it's kind of what you said. You're chasing all day. And when you're chasing, it makes it difficult, and not to mention when you're playing. And again, people can be as upset as they want to be. The Baylor's better than we are. You can literally look on the football field at every position. Their guys were bigger than we were. They were bigger and faster. That's just a fact. It's just the way that it is. And, and we hung. It's not that we didn't hang in there and play tough. We did, but you're trying to play catch up all game long. That was a problem. It was just a problem. We could never get there. But, the guys fought, but it just completely early on just took them out of everything they wanted to do.
Yeah, it was a very, very disappointing start to the game, but I'll give K-State credit. They never backed down until the end. Until the end when they realized, okay, Skylar's out. This thing ain't going to work. We got to get out of here. Let's start with the offense and the things that went wrong. Now, I don't know if we need to spend any time on special teams because the math is simple. You gave up 7 with a muff punt. You missed 3 with a missed field goal that should be made. Yeah. You lose by 10. The math's simple. So we all know what special teams did in this game, and that's the ultimate disappointment if you're a K-State person, coach, player, alumni, former player. You don't screw up special teams to the point where you lose.
Correct.
Anyhow, offensively, Baylor came with a pretty simple plan. Let's dominate that offensive line with what we see as a superior front for us and just sit back in zone and make it really difficult for Skylar Thompson to figure out where to throw the ball. And that's what they did. K-State's offensive line got its ass whooped on Saturday.
Whew. That was bad, Fitz. They literally got embarrassed. They got embarrassed. Let's just call it what it is. They got embarrassed, got physically whipped. I didn't think I'd say that about this K-State offensive line because they're really good. They are. They got physically manhandled. It was literally embarrassing.
Yeah, and it started, and I'm not doing this to throw anyone under the bus, but it's the reality of the game. Noah Johnson's a really good center. He's a great leader, but you put an NFL-level nose tackle across from him, the poor kid doesn't stand a chance, and he didn't on Saturday. And that means Skylar Thompson's got someone potentially in his face from the moment he gets the ball. And Skylar was never comfortable in this game.
No,
never.
Not at all.
And it's like Baylor just gave him enough to worry about where he hit the overload, and you could see alarm bells going off.
Yep. Well, the one thing is you got to have a better plan. You got to double team that guy every single play, and that was not happening. And literally, it was just constant pressure up the middle. You talk to any quarterback that knows anything about football at any level, where do they not want pressure? Up the middle, and that's constantly what happened all game long. It was just up the middle, around the edge, guard, tackle, center. I'm not singling anybody out because they all got whipped. It was just a bad game by the offensive line. Skylar had no chance. You can say whatever you want to about him, however he played. He literally had no chance. I don't know that you can count 5 to 10 times that he could just drop back, set his feet, and throw the football.
Right.
I literally don't think that you could do that. There was one time where they rushed 3 guys, and we handled them pretty well, but that was one time. I literally don't know how many times you could do that. It was I don't know if it was frustrating. It was just, you saw what those guys were doing. Those guys are just really good, Fitz. They're just really good. Man.
Well, the best 2 defenses in this conference, without a doubt in my mind, are Oklahoma State, which just absolutely schooled Texas Tech defensively.
Yes.
Last night, I didn't see the final stats, but Tech was at 85 yards midway through the fourth quarter. 85 yards. I didn't see what the final was. But and Baylor, and they're very similar defenses. They're non-traditional Big 12 defenses in the fact that they really do pressure you a lot. I think the days of Big 12 defenses sitting back in zone and tempting you to try to score more than they can score, that's done. And if Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma next week and Baylor wins, which I expect them to do, we're going to have the 2 best defenses in the conference play for the Big 12 title. And I think that marks an evolution in this conference that has been a long time coming. The Big 12 is suddenly becoming a defensive conference, which I think is good for K-State. What are your thoughts?
I think it's great. I was literally just going to say, I think it's a great thing that we can showcase. It's a showcase game, clearly. Big 12 championship game. Let's showcase some defenses. For years, that's all they've talked about is how no guys come from go to the NFL that play defense. The Big 12 doesn't play defense. For years, that's been the case. And now it's different. And I think it's a great thing. Let's showcase two teams that are playing really not, okay, they're average or they slow people down. No. These defenses stop people. They literally stop you from doing what you want to do. They're in your face. They're bringing pressure. They're lining up man-to-man outside. They're saying our athletes are better than your athletes, and that's how we're going to play it. I love that style of football. I like it on both sides. And, again, Baylor is just really, really good. They just are. They're really good.
Yep. Skylar Thompson, 15 to 29 in the game, only 158 yards. A long pass of 48 yards to Malik Knowles, sacked 3 times. Even when he wasn't being sacked, he was being pressured. He would try to step up in that pocket, and instead of having a couple feet of grace halo around him, he had people touching him at all times, which is not good for a quarterback psyche. But I thought from early on in this game, Skylar kind of collapsed in terms of his confidence. And I think a big part of it was the designed quarterback runs in which he could not run the ball. They just didn't fall for it one bit.
I mean, I was questioning why, again, I know I've gone back to that. And if he's 100% healthy, it is what it is. But we've seen him play his best football where he's not running the QB run game because he couldn't. You know, he's been playing the best football that I've ever seen him play. I love the QB run game. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But at the same time, if what we're doing is working, I don't know why we go away from it. And he was tiptoeing when he was running the ball. You could just tell he didn't want to run it. He didn't want to do those things. It was tough. And you're right, as far as his confidence. And I mean, and let's just call it what it is. The kid got beat up. Yep. Barring the injury, he got just physically beat up yesterday. It was, I mean, that was a beating. It just was. I mean, he just got beat up. And Baylor, that was the point of emphasis. We're going to hit them, and we're going to keep hitting them, and we're not going to stop hitting them. And they did not. So I feel bad that, you know, that he didn't maybe have his best game, but I can't really put it all on. I can't put really any of it on him. I mean, he just didn't have the time to do what he needed to do.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't the whole day. I want to go back and watch that game. I think he might have gotten dinged early in the game because I don't feel like he was processing information like he has throughout the year.
You're exactly right. It may have been a little gun shy.
Yeah. I thought the play calling was atrocious. I thought it was interesting that Chris Kleiman called it out. He said, I don't think we approach this game in the right way offensively. And, you know, he's best friends with Courtney Messingham, but he is showing that he will tell the truth in a press conference, and he's not going to cover up for a grown-ass man when they don't perform at their job. Now, will he do anything about it? I don't know. I'm certainly not calling for best firing, but they need to look at how they're running the offense and what they're deploying on the field on game day.
And that's the whole point. Is it's not that you want somebody fired, but I'm tired of hearing, hey, well, they got to do this. Hey, they got to do something different. Hey, they're going to do that. I don't want to hear that anymore. I want there to be some action. Do something different. You know, make something different happen, you know, versus just constantly, well, yeah, you're right, you know, and it was bad. Well, yeah, we know it was bad. I mean, everybody knows it was bad, you know, and we got to do something different. And it's okay to do something different. Again, I'm not saying you have to fire the man, but make him change. That's part of it. That's your job. Make him change. If something's not working, you got to make him change. That's it.
I actually like Kansas State's offense. I think Kansas State's offense can be effective at this level, but not in the predictable way in which it's being used.
No.
The beauty of this offense is it constantly gives you things to think about that a pre-snap where all the movement and where the ball is going, but then post-snap they become so predictable it wipes out everything you try to gain pre-snap. I don't get it. I don't understand how this was the game plan against Baylor. Now, look, if you go back and look the games they lost, they gave up passing yardage. I get it. Right. But they came to town with a plan to alleviate that by sitting back there in zone and saying, you know what, we're just better than you. And we're going to – correct. And we run zone defense better than you can because God knows it was two different versions of zone defense. They seem to cover receivers that are in their zone. And K-State, no matter who the coaches are, seem to cover pieces of land even if there's not a receiver standing 5 feet away from you. They're committed to that piece of land. That drives me insane. But anyhow, Baylor came to town with a great defensive plan to stop K-State. It worked to perfection, and now it's time to say it. I think Dave Aranda might be the best coach in the Big 12.
Yeah, I really think so. I mean, the guy has turned it around quickly, and they are – I mean, again, they're good. They're good. Now, I don't know – and I'll just be honest. They had the one bad year. I'm not sure how bad Baylor really was. I think maybe people just fell off or whatever the case may be, and they weren't as good the last. But, I mean, they're really good, man. And they basically came to say, look – our team, our line is better than your line. And we're going to sit back in this zone and cover guys in this zone. And you can do that when you get pressure. Right. That's the whole key, is that when you can get pressure and without having to blitz, and they did blitz, don't get me wrong, but when you can do that and just say, I'm better than you, we're going to win these one-on-one matchups, it's a problem. And then it was an outstanding game plan. It really was. I don't think that K-State knew the kind of physicality that was going to be required to win this football game because they didn't show up to do that all game. I mean, it never stopped. It never changed. Usually, hey, you get into the game, okay, this is going to be, we got to change. It never changed. We never matched their physicality. Never.
Nope, they didn't, and I don't know that we were capable of it, and that's right. I think that's what's adding to a lot of frustration in the fans that we haven't seen a notable difference in those type of things. This K-State team's better, but you're right. You know what? Baylor was in the Big 12 championship 2 years ago, and we all probably decided Matt Rule left because there was no talent. Well, obviously there was talent in the lower classes. It was sitting there. It just needed maturing, and having a new coach come in with no off season and try to implement his program in a COVID year last year meant Baylor was bad at the start of the year. But maybe we should have got a hint that he's pretty good because Baylor was pretty good by the end of the year. He got his team better under really extraordinary circumstances last year, and they just picked up and kept moving forward this year. And what they did defensively was so very impressive. But it comes down to the Jimmies and Joes, and they coached them well.
Yep. Well, and the thing about it is that, I know that's a point of contention with tons of fans is that, recruiting. And it is, and it should be. It absolutely should be. We just have to get better. We just have to sit back and just say, you know what, this is where we are. And then kind of what we talked about with the pregame is, hey, this is a barometer. Let's see where we're at. And this is where we're at. We need to figure it out, find out where we're at, and go from there. Where do we need to get better? What do we need to do? Well, we need a ton more athletes. We need bigger guys. We need faster guys. It just is what it is. I don't want people to be discouraged because we got beat by a better football team. Yesterday was just one of those days where they were better. And they were coached better. We get by when we can play with the Oklahomas. We know Oklahoma has more talent, but they're not coached as well. And they're just not. People rave about Lincoln Riley and how great a coach he is. But is he really? I go, he's had some good quarterbacks. But other than that, and there's no reason. But we're coached better. So we stay in games, and we beat them. Yesterday was just the time where Baylor, we're better. We're coached better. We're going to play better. And they did.
Okay, let's talk about the Skylar Thompson situation. He has an ankle injury. We were told he was getting x-rayed after the game. I'm not sure what the result of that x-ray is, but he's apparently in a walking boot. Shocker at K-State. And he's up and on it, so maybe that's a good sign. I'm guessing it's just a really bad high ankle sprain, which probably means he won't be able to play. Which is just awful because it now puts you in this situation as Coach Chris Kleiman. So we're also told that the offensive coaches were ready to put in Will Howard, who has played 4 games, and that's the threshold for keeping a red shirt. Now, where they screwed up colossally was in Lawrence when they played Will Howard.
Correct.
He should never have gone on the field, and I think that's what set this all in motion when they saw Kleiman probably just had the offensive coaches in charge of that. They put in Will Howard, and he's like, why did we do that? We really want to preserve this red shirt for this kid, and now we're out of options. So here's what their options are. You play an injured Skylar Thompson. You play a obviously under-equipped Jaron Lewis. Where'd Jalen Thomas come from? You play an under-equipped Jaron Lewis, or you pull the red shirt off Will Howard and say, you know what, we're going to have to burn a year, and you get a year back with COVID. It means you'll be listed as a junior next year, but in reality, you're a sophomore if you want to use that COVID season, as opposed to being, a third-year freshman, which is ideal. But you also know you need to win this game. I'm not throwing this game away with Texas. Some people are like, well, just 7 wins, the season's a loss. Guys, you can win 8 regular season games again and go to a bowl game and get a 9th win. I don't think there's anything lost here in the building process.
Absolutely not.
You got to put your best guy on the field on Saturday. And if that's Will Howard, so be it. But as I've said a couple times now at GoPowercat, if you want someone to be criticized, it would have been burning Will Howard's red shirt last night, Saturday night, in a game in which K-State was not going to come back. It just wasn't.
Correct.
And then you find out, Skylar's fine. He can play at Texas, but we already burned the red shirt. That would have been the worst case. The worst case.
Yes,
scenario.
It would have.
So now you've got some time. Let's decide here. And you can make a measured decision on Will Howard and Skylar Thompson. I hope Sky can go. And if he can go in any way, damn it, design a game plan that will catch Texas off guard. Do something completely different with that. I go back to, was it 2010 when Colin Klein had to play and Colin Klein wasn't capable of throwing the football at the time? So they just designed the whole offense around Colin Klein running the ball, and Texas never stopped it. Well, we've been calling for different things. Maybe it's time to try something different with the offense if Skylar plays and isn't as mobile as usual.
Well, we got to do something. And it's what you said early is like, the season's not over. Like 7 wins, again, let's not be satisfied here. We're happy to have 7 wins, but we shouldn't be satisfied. I mean, an opportunity to go beat Texas, because if anybody hasn't noticed, Texas has quit. I mean, so that's the game that we can absolutely go and win. We should be overjoyed. Go down there and go beat them up, go win a football game, and then go to a good bowl, go win another. I mean, 9 wins. There's nobody that thought that we could get to 9 wins this year. I mean, that's not what people thought that we were going to be capable of. And to be able to, the possibility to do that, then we need to go and do it. Go win. Don't be satisfied. That's what sometimes fan base gets, it's okay that we tried. I'm like, no. Let's go win. Let's be the best that we can be, regardless of the situation. Let's go be the best we can be. But you can't play Will Howard this week. If they're trying to redshirt the kid, they can't do it. They just literally can't do it. I don't care under any circumstances. If that's your plan, at some point you have to stick to your plan and just stick to it and deal with it. Now, on the flip side of that, if we don't have anybody that's literally capable of putting together a game plan, well, that's something totally different. Totally different. If we can't say, hey, you can be the starter and we have another backup, and if we don't have that, then that's something different, and then you deal with it. Down the road. I don't know how Will Howard would feel about being treated that way, to be honest with you, Fitz, is, hey, I'm trying to redshirt here, and you guys are throwing me in here because of somebody else's inabilities. Well, that has to be my fault. And I'm not talking about Skylar being hurt. Those are things that go through kids' minds these days. I'm not trying to be the negative guy. I'm just trying to be the reality guy, and hopefully Skylar can just play, and then we don't have to worry about any of that. But you're right. Playing him at Kansas, was the purpose? I'm trying to figure that out. What the reasoning behind that was, if you're trying to redshirt a guy. I'm like, oh man, what are we doing? Like, seriously, what are we doing? It can't be to throw him in there to have game experience. The guy's started football games for you before, and a lot of them. So I don't know.
Great stuff, Brien. And as we go to break, I'll just want to point out something here as we talk about the offense, wrap up our thoughts about the offense. Deuce Vaughn on the day, 11 carries, 128 total yards. That long as 65 on an incredible touchdown run, averaged 11.6 yards per carry. That sounds pretty good. Deuce Vaughn, 6 targets, 5 receptions for 37 yards. Sounds pretty good. In the second half, though, only 4 of those 11 carries took place, and only 3 of the targeted passes took place. Now, granted, Kansas State only ran 51 plays in a tragically poor offensive performance, but wow, I never thought I would say, how did this offense forget Deuce Vaughn? But they did on Saturday. We'll be right back with more of the Powercat Postgame Review Podcast. Brien Hanley and myself, Tim Fitzgerald, continue to discuss Kansas State's 20-10 loss to Baylor. And we're going to take a look ahead at Texas just briefly and around the conference as we gauge the temperature of the league and the program. And it's all coming up after this break. But we're sponsored by Caddyshack Golf.
GoPowercat.com's Powercat Podcast continues after this short break.
Imagine the softest sheets you've ever felt. Now imagine them getting even softer over time. I'm here to tell you about Boll & Branch and how you can discover this new level of softness with their iconic sheets. In a recent customer survey, 96% responded that Boll & Branch sheets get softer with every wash. They source the rarest 100% organic cotton for an incredible softness to start. Then they skip the toxins and harsh chemicals for a natural feel unlike anything else, and it all comes together with their signature weave. This special design feels buttery, breathable, and unlocks new levels of softness with every wash, and they stand behind their promise of softness. With their 30-night guarantee, you can wash, style, and sleep in their sheets for an entire month. If during the 30 nights, you don't love your sheets or feel them getting softer and softer, you can send them right back. No questions asked. So head to bollandbranch.com for 15% off your first order with code Odyssey. That's BOLL and branch.com. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Getting the crew together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door. Which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
Welcome back to the Powercat Podcast. Now, let's return to the GPC studios.
Welcome back to the Powercat Postgame Review Podcast, sponsored by Caddyshack Golf. I am GoPowercat publisher Tim Fitzgerald, and we're joined from Texas by our football analyst, Mr. Brien Hanley, former offensive lineman for the Wildcats, as we break down Kansas State's 20-10 loss in the 11th game of the season. K-State 7-4 and 4-4 overall, heading into Friday's game at Texas. But we're sponsored by Caddyshack Golf, for K-Staters, by K-Staters, jackets, hats, polos, t-shirts, golf accessories. Caddyshack Golf, where it is caddy with 2 T's. Visit caddyshackgolf.com. Use code GPC for free shipping on your next order. Okay, let's turn our attention to other matters at this point in the podcast. First of all, if I'm Steve Sarkisian, I go to my locker room after losing to West Virginia and now being completely out of bowl eligibility at 4-7, and you're now just playing to play out the season. I almost call a team meeting and say, hey, I know some of you are going to go into the transfer portal, and I appreciate you sticking with us to this point, but here is who you need to talk to for the transfer portal. Go talk to them. We're going to go get ready with the players we're going to have back.
Correct.
and I play, unless, you're burning a red shirt, which I don't think they have. I think they probably maintained almost all their red shirts that they could. Just play those guys. Just play them. Just play them all, play them young, play them. Just say, go play. And if you're Kansas State, you need to counter with a game plan that requires a lot of discipline for the defense. But, man, if I'm Sark, I'm just done with you. If you don't want to be here, here's the door. And I appreciate your service to the University of Texas. The transfer portal is that way. Let's go, guys. Let's play some football.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would be. Because the rumblings are there.
Yep.
That they've heard it. Everybody's talking. What's going on? Are they going to fire the coach? Which they're not going to fire the coach. Well, I say that they're not going to fire the coach. I don't believe that that's going to happen. I would literally. You got to get your program back. And right now, he doesn't have control of his program. The only way to be able to do that is to get guys that have completely bought in, and you're 100% correct. I would have had the meeting today on Sunday.
Yep.
Hey, you know what? I know there's going to be guys that are going to get into the transfer portal. When we're done with this meeting, this is who you need to talk to. Go talk to them right now, and we wish you the best. And anybody else that's still here, let's get ready to go because we're going to go win a football game on Friday. So I think that's just the reality of it, and that's what he's got to do. If he's trying to build something, you got to start somewhere, and this, to me, is rock bottom for them. So go from there and figure it out.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see how he handles it. To be blunt, he hasn't handled much very well this season as a head coach.
Oh, my goodness.
There's just been a lot of distractions, a lot of nonsense, but that goes with the job at Texas. I'm fine. You want to have your own channel. You want to have an overbearing fan base. You want whatever you got. That's your problem. Deal with it. You have all the money, so I'm not going to have any sympathy for you. Kansas State, going back to the Baylor game, defensively, you got to – I don't want to give them a free pass on the first 7 points, but it certainly has an asterisk. So they really kind of held that Baylor offense to 13 points. Gary Bohannon is a special quarterback. I hope he's okay. He blew that quad. I'm afraid he won't be able to play this weekend. But I got news. They're pretty good at quarterback. Blake Shapen came in, and he's a baseball player, and he threw it around like a baseball player, and then he stole second and kept going to third on a running play. He was a bullet going through the defense. So they're in fine hands there. But I thought K-State did a great job with this power running game and multifaceted quarterback who hurt them at times, but that's going to happen. Overall, I thought K-State's defense came to win, and they did everything K-State needed the defense to do to win the game, including being on the field 36 to 24 minutes. They were out there constantly because of the ineptitude of the offense and still held up for the most part.
Yeah, the defense played they played well. They did. That running game, they got after them. They played really good football. Again, that first 7 points, it is. The one thing about it is people all the time talk about, well, you should be able to hold them again. You know what? Mentally, I'm done. We did our job, and then to have to run back out on the field immediately. And I know sudden change is part of football, and that's, you have to deal with it. But at the same time, it's not like they were playing a bunch of powder puffs out there. No. Baylor's really good and can move the football. So it's not like they went out there and gave up 70 yards or anything like that. So, I just thought the defense played outstanding. I just did. Considering the circumstances, I know they got some plays. I know they went on the one really, really long drive, and we had some difficulties sometimes. Yeah, I just thought the defense played outstanding. I did. I thought they were about as physical as that they could be. And their quarterback got hurt, but at the same time, the points that they gave up, what they did, they gave the offense every opportunity to get into this football game. They did. They gave them every opportunity to do that. So, I applaud their effort.
So they gave up the early touchdown. The next scoring drive was a touchdown after 15 plays and 74 yards in the second quarter. They came back, Baylor did, with the field goal to end the first half, and they had to go 13 plays and 71 yards. And then later they had another field goal that was 13 plays and 72 yards. That's making them earn it. They are absolutely having to earn their points. Granted, they kept them out of – this defense keeps people out of the end zone for the most part. I mean, they do a good job with it. That's 3 actual drives against your defense, scoring drives, and 2 of them they forced a field goal. So I just can't – I can't believe how far this defense has come. And granted, I'm worried about next year, linebacker, defensive secondary, all those things, nose tackle. But they've got some really, really nice pieces back there that some guys that now understand. TJ Smith had a really good experience. After struggling earlier in the year, losing his confidence, boy, he needed that, including just absolutely stealing a ball at the bottom of the pile. I'm almost surprised they didn't give the ball to Baylor, because it was pretty clear the Baylor guy had the ball.
He jumped right on it, right?
But I saw some positives there that tell me that defensively they're going to be fine, and the defense is going to have to be really good at Texas, because the Texas might be down, but they got some guys. They got some athletes.
Yeah, they do. Texas can run the football. If they can't do anything else, they can move that football. So the defense is going to have to be on their P's and Q's again. But I think they're up to the challenge. I think they've just got their confidence fits where this is what they do. This is what they do each week. I think they understand that they have taken this. I don't know what you really want to call it. I just think that what they've done is they've decided we're a good defense. We can shut down people, and this is what we do each and every week, and people need to give us our respect for that. Right. That's what I believe the defense is and has become, which is good.
Right. I'm not going to spend any more time on special teams than what I already said, because damn it, that's not tolerated at K-State, and I think Coach Kleiman's communicating exactly that, and it just shows how important that special teams stat of scoring so many and it's also defensive touchdowns, non-offensive touchdowns through the years, how much it's helped this program, and play a game without it. That's what you get. You get a 20-10 loss, but let me just ask. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me just ask this. There's a lot of people back on the edge of the bridge, and it's exhausting. One loss doesn't mean the end of the world. You're going to lose some games, and if you thought this program was going to be fixed in 3 years with a COVID year that was pretty much lost for the K-State program and how it worked out, you had just ridiculous expectations of a new hire. It's going to take a process. It got to improve recruiting. But overall, what do you see as the state of this football program?
I think that at this point in the season, I think everybody thought or wanted us to be able to get 7 wins. I went out on a limb and just threw out 9. Well, we're going to go 9-3. Well, thinking that we could get to 7. Well, we're at 7. I don't know that there's many people that thought that K-State could win 8 football games in the regular season this year. I just don't believe. I know they may have been hopeful. I don't believe that there was that many true K-State fans that thought that was something that we were going to be capable of doing. And we still got to do it. Don't get me wrong. We still got to do it because we're not there yet. Having said that, I think the program, I just don't count last year. I just don't, because of what happened, all the circumstances. And I know everybody played and we played every game, but the circumstances were just so bizarre and such a one-off. You can't count that against Coach as far as bringing the program along. You just can't do that. Not in my eyes, you can't do that. So you just got to throw that year out and just basically say, you know what, that was a free practice year. And here we are in year 2 of where we need to be. And I just think the program is fine. We're moving along just fine. I mean, you can't fix a program in 3 years. It doesn't work that way, in no program. And I know we've seen colleges change coaches, like they change underwear. And that never works. It literally never works. You have to give people time to bring in their people, to build the relationships with their recruiting bases or wherever they're at. You just have to give it time. And I know that the world doesn't have patience anymore. And we can be frustrated. We can be mad that we lose games. But you can't be so mad that, oh, we got to fire the coach. You can be mad about the play calling. Play calling is bad from game to game or whatever. You can be mad about that. But you also have to enjoy the positives. And I think that's what gets left out a lot of times is, okay, well, we lost, or this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. And nobody ever talks about the positives of the program. I go, you got to be able to talk about the positives and what we're doing right, because if we're not going to talk about that, then why do you even have a program? Or why do you even root would be the better question, is that everything isn't as bad as what it seems. Everything's not always going to be as good as what it seems. But be happy that you're moving forward, because, again, you could be Kansas. You could be Kansas. I mean, if people just really take a look at it and think about I don't know, I've said this before, Kansas was right an all-time high when they had Mark Mangino there. They forced him out. Look what their program has been since. We could be that. So feel fortunate. Or we could be Colorado or Arizona. We could be those programs. Those programs are the epitome of horrible and they weren't always. I mean, they were not. Or we could be Nebraska. Think about that. K-State is that much better than Nebraska. Nebraska is horrible. We could be that, literally. So, I know that we're not where we were previously. And I know we're not where we want to be. But we're also not in the dumpster. So let's take a step back and think about where we're going. We got to build. We all know what we have to do. It's all about, we got to build recruiting. We got to do those things. You got to use the transfer portal. That's part of recruiting now. So we've got to embrace it, which I think we've done a great job of doing. And the program is moving forward. We're okay. We are okay.
That's right. Yeah, that was beautifully said, brother. Beautifully said. Go win in Texas. Go prepare for the best bowl game you're eligible to play in. And then go find some guys in the transfer portal that can help you next year, and you're going to be just fine. The question becomes, and we've talked about it before, will the transfers include a quarterback? Because if they feel like Will Howard's a guy, it won't. Unless they absolutely don't like Lewis and Rubley as backups, and they still want more depth there. Maybe they go bring someone in and say, hey, this job isn't yours if you're coming, but you can earn it. You got a long ways to go. We will see. I think they need to probably go find another tight end, probably find a couple receivers, because I suspect we're going to see some attrition there. And on defense, just right up the middle. You better go find some nose tackles, linebackers, and defensive backs. And they have a lot of needs on defense for next year. But you look at the field this year, they're playing a ton of portal guys. Where would this defense be without Stubblefield or Yeast or Brents or Horn? All those guys have had an impact. And if you can go find 4 more guys, 5 guys like that, you're going to be fine. That's the beauty of the portal. And now we're going to see if Chris Kleiman can use it to overcome the defensive difficulties he's run into, recruiting difficulties he's run into at Kansas State, and overcome those while they try to get their feet under them better in local recruiting, because they're getting their butts kicked around the state of Kansas for the most part. And boy, that's got to stop.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but it's the truth, and I'm going to say it until they tell me I can't say it anymore. You have to build your program from your campus out, and that means you have to be – I mean, there's just no reason that you don't get the majority of guys from Kansas City, Wichita. There's just no reason that K-State doesn't get those guys. There just isn't. There's no reason. And I know that Kansas isn't going to have 50 guys that can play Big 12 football every year. They're just not going to have that. Number one, there's not enough kids. They're just not going to have that. But you got to be able to get the majority of those guys. You just do, because there are going to be some really high-level guys that can play immediately too. You got to be able to get those guys. That's something that we used to just dominate. The Kansas City area, we cleaned up. And that's not the case anymore. And it's not, I mean, it's Iowa State just pretty much owns it right now. And that's a problem. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. They own the Kansas City area. Anybody they want, they go get. And other places are coming to get them too. It's just like, we got to get back in there and build those relationships again and show, that, hey, we're playing high-level football. come to Kansas State again. Come to Kansas State. There's no reason that you shouldn't be coming here. We got to get better. Just got to get better. I think we will. It's going to take some work. They got to try. You're going to have to swing and miss a few times, which is okay. But you got to at least take the swings.
You do indeed. It's a very interesting situation for Kansas State right now. They come into this game, they're 7-4 heading into Texas, 4-4 overall. They can finish in 5th in this conference, which was higher than anyone expected. Oklahoma State sitting at 7-1, Baylor at 6-2. Iowa State's 4-4, but the Cyclones have a winnable game at home. I think they have TCU on Thanksgiving, so they should get to 5-4, but K-State can get to 5-4. Texas Tech is knocking on the door at 4-5, which is stunning. But the lower portion of this conference is Tech, TCU, and West Virginia at 3-5, Texas at 2-6, and Kansas at 1-7. You almost wish Kansas could win, but I'm not going there. That's insane. Anyhow, what I'm saying here is, folks, Kansas State's going to be firmly in the middle of this conference. I know you don't strive to get to the middle of the conference, but this is not the destination. This is the journey.
Correct.
If you want to drive to Vegas from here, you're going to have to stop in the middle of no man's land, somewhere between in Colorado, Utah, out there.
Yep.
And that's kind of where K-State's at. They're just in the middle right now, on the way. And if it stalls out there, well, that's disappointing. But I don't think it will. I think they're moving forward, and they've got a lot of work to do to continue that momentum. But winning at Texas helps.
Yes.
And I also think it helps the recruiting message if Oklahoma State and Baylor are in the title game, because now that shows this conference is going to be just fine without OU and Texas.
My
There's
goodness.
life after OU and Texas, and I'm really hoping Oklahoma State wins and Baylor wins so that we can get that game. I think that would be great advertising for the future of the conference.
I think it would be outstanding advertising, because if you look at it, and I saw this stat yesterday, Fitz, I didn't even realize it. They put resumes up. You know how they do the one team and then do a blind resume? Oklahoma State's resume is much better than Ohio State's resume. Now, the national brand and what everybody, and Ohio State's really, really good, but and all that stuff all plays into this playoff thing. But Oklahoma State's resume was head, shoulders, body better than Ohio State's resume. And if they go and win this Big 12, I'm not sure that they can keep them out. Because they're going to beat OU, and they're going to have to either beat OU or Baylor again. I don't know how you keep them out. I really don't. With the teams that would have to fall because they're going to play each other, I just really don't know how you would keep them out at that point.
I agree.
So it's for me, it's great for the conference, and I'm rooting. I mean, if I had a rooting interest, which I'm not really that guy. I like my team, and that's it. But for rooting interest for a conference, I really want Oklahoma State to go in, because I would like to see a Big 12 team get in there and get Oklahoma State, even though I don't like Gundy. And I don't really like Oklahoma State. It's not really Gundy. I just don't really like him. But to represent the conference, I think I would like for them to win it, because I think they have the best resume. So, and it would be really good for recruiting. And like you said, the conference would be just fine. OU, Texas, you guys can go, and the conference will be just fine.
I wish the committee had the balls, and I'm saying that, balls to stand up to ESPN and say, hey, we're not going to pick on TV ratings. That we're going to pick on what's on the field. Cincinnati, Oklahoma State are in, the Big Ten champion, and then the SEC champion. If Georgia beats Alabama, hands Alabama a second loss, and Ohio State has 2 losses, neither one of those teams should be in the playoff. No one else gets that. No one else will get that advantage. And that's just because of brand. That's because of brand. Yep. Yeah, they're talented. Okay, that's great. You got to win the games. It's about what happens on the field. And now the committee has to admit that the Oregon loss by Ohio State isn't a good loss. It was at home. It was against a team that just got its ass kicked in a crucial game out west. That is a bad loss, and I hope to see Oregon drop out of the teens. They don't belong anywhere near the top. It's a mess. And if Cincinnati isn't in the top 4, blow this system up come next week when they announce those new rankings.
Well, yeah, if they're not going to put Cincinnati, if they're not going to move them up, then at some point it just, you know what, we're just not going to do this thing, because what else do they have to do? I'm not even saying Cincinnati's the best team. I'm not willing to say that. But from what they've done, they've earned it at this point. What else are you doing? And again, it's just teams that lose games, and they talk about, the schedule. Who in the Big Ten is any good that Ohio State has played? They beat Michigan State. Well, how good is Michigan State really if you can beat them? I mean, the game was over at halftime. It was 49-0.
Yep.
So how good really was Michigan State? And you want to talk about Michigan. We're going to find out how good Michigan is this week when Ohio State just boat races them again. They go, because that's what's going to happen. They're going to destroy them, but they're going to give them the credit for beating this number 6 team or 5 team or whatever, when we all know, we can see it with our own eyes, Michigan is horrible. I mean, they're average at best.
Right.
And that's what drives us all insane. It's just, I get tired of it. And I'm not the woe is me, we're little K-State. I am not that guy, because I believe K-State is bigger and better than that. So I'm never going to be the woe is me, any of that stuff. But I am a realist, and I understand what they're doing, and I understand what ESPN is doing to just ruin college football. It just drives me insane.
Wow, we got off in the weeds, but those were enjoyable weeds. Kansas State loses its 11th game of the season. They haven't lost 11 times. Their 11th game resulted in a loss, 20-10 to Baylor. K-State's now 7-4 on the season, 4-4 in Big 12 as they head into Friday, 11 a.m. contest at Texas to wind up their regular season, and then they'll await a bowl bid. Baylor's now 9-2 and 6-2, and if the Bears can win their season-ending game next week, all they need is Oklahoma State to beat Oklahoma, and they will play the Pokes for the Big 12 title. Brien, I appreciate it very much. It's been a lot of fun. We will reconvene. Brother, we'll probably have to reconvene next Sunday, even though it's a Friday game. This Friday game's screwing me up, and nobody asked me, Fitz, is a Friday game going to work for you? Because I would have said no. I got to have my games on Saturday. But we will get it done. Saturday will be a travel day and a family Thanksgiving day for us. And let's hope the Cats can go down there with whomever's the quarterback and get a win. Brien, appreciate it very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's it for this edition of the Powercat Postgame Review Podcast, sponsored by Caddy Shack Golf. Make sure you tune in next week. Is tuning in right for a podcast? Make sure you join us next week for our Powercat pregame podcast. It'll drop a day early. We'll be recording on Tuesday, so you can have it on Wednesday. That means you'll have it on Thanksgiving. That sounds fun.
Thank you for listening to the Powercat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.